Texans today, everybody. I am your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up on the program today, my Houston Texans mock draft 4.0. And this is actually my first mock draft that I've done after the Laremy Tunsil trade. We have some more picks to play with in this 2025 NFL draft. And if maybe you've been living under a rock, you have no idea what I'm talking about. Here it was the Laremy Tunsil trade that went down. The Texans sending Laremy Tunsil and a 4th-round pick in this year's draft. They received a 3rd and a 7th this year and a 2nd and a 4th in next year's draft. Now, whenever the trade first went through, I was upset. I'm not gonna lie. I was a little disappointed. I was upset, one, because I thought Laremy Tunsil was a good tackle, but more, I didn't think the Texans got enough in this trade. Now, more details have come out, and I've kind of softened my opinion on this trade. At first, I gave it a D+. Now, I built my way up to a C+. One letter grade up. I don't think it was the best move the Texans could have made. I still think they could have gotten possibly more if they shopped him around a little bit more around the league, because a top left tackle in the NFL, I think, is still a premier spot. But I want to hear from you folks at home. Do you think the Texans got enough in return for Laremy Tunsil? Give me a yes, give me a no. Give me your thoughts in the comment section. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get hit with the YouTube ad break, all good, perfect timing. Just scroll on down and let your answer be known. For me personally, like I said, I still think the Texans could have gotten more out of this Laremy Tunsil trade. Now, with some of the other details coming out about, him possibly wanting to, get a new contract and kind of get up there with the top tackles once again, his guaranteed money is out, and other situations around the Texans locker room and the culture fit and all this stuff. Regardless, I still think he's one of the best pass blocking left tackles in the league, and I think regardless of what some people, maybe Albert Breer, thinks he's toxic to the locker room, I don't hold too much weight in those comments. I still think Laremy Tunsil is a premier left tackle in this league. And the fact that the Texans didn't get a 1st-round pick in return for that, I still think they could have done a little bit better. But without further ado, let's get straight into my mock draft. And I'm going to stand on 10 toes on this. If I had to put money on it today on who the Texans' 1st-round pick would be, it would be this guy right here, Donovan Jackson. And that's exactly where I went in this mock draft. Round 1, pick 25. Give me the offensive lineman out of Ohio State. I mean, he played left guard, he played left tackle, and he excelled at both of those positions. I saw a stat on Twitter during the college football playoff. I think it was a 89 PFF grade, 0 sacks allowed throughout the whole CFP playoffs. Donovan Jackson, while he was playing left tackle, where he had played left guard the 2 years before, but after the Josh Simmons injury, he was forced to move over to that left tackle spot. He's a good run blocker. He's gritty. He's a great leader. I think he fits this swarm culture. I think he fits exactly what the Texans want to do along the offensive line. And with the signings they've had recently, getting 2 tackles, Cam Robinson and Trent Brown, I think it makes sense that they're going to draft a guy who has a ton of experience at left guard, like Donovan Jackson, and who might be able to move over to that left tackle spot in due time. And if he doesn't, he's your starting left guard for the foreseeable future. But I think Donovan Jackson is the pick at 25. If I had to put my money on it right now, that's who I think the Texans are taking in round 1. Now let's scurry on over to round 2, where I have the Texans taking Jaylin Noel, wide receiver from Iowa State. And I'm not going to lie to y'all. The wide receiver prospect class, like the group of guys coming through this draft class, it has been so confusing on what the consensus top 3, top 4 wide receivers are. You have Chris Sims saying Kyle Williams, who met with the Texans the other day out of Washington State, is the 2nd best wide receiver in this class behind Travis Hunter. You have other guys saying, Jaylin Noel's a 1st-round pick. Oh, no, his teammate Jaydon Higgins is a 1st-round pick. I don't know where the chips are going to lie in terms of all these wide receivers in this draft class. All I do know is in the 2nd round, if the Texans are able to get a guy like Noel, that would be fantastic. Shout out to the Texans 22 podcast, who first put me on Jaylin Noel whenever I went on their show. And they were talking very highly of this young man, and for good reason. When you put on the tape, when you watch him play, he is a great route runner, great speed, and he's able to separate from defenders. I think adding him to this wide receiver room, along with Nico Collins, along with Christian Kirk, this could be a scary unit once again for CJ Stroud to help dissect some defenses this upcoming season. Now, this is my mock draft, so I decided, you know what? Let's mess around a little bit. A trade here. The Bucks, ring, 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 ring. They called me up and they said, hey, Chuggs, do you think we can move up to pick 79? I said, yeah, it'll cost you pick 84 and pick 157. They're like, that's too much. I said, take it or leave it. And they said, okay. So this was the trade that went down. The Texans, me in this mock draft, I got moved back, 5 picks, and I picked up a 5th-round pick. I was like, okay, that's cool with me. And the guy who I took with this pick in round 3, pick 84 now because we traded with the Tampa Bay Bucks, Kevin Winston Jr. out of Penn State. And this is a guy who you're taking a risk on, right? He got injured this past year. I believe only played 2 or 3 games in 2024. And he's somebody who I talked about Jalen Petrie earlier on in the week and how the Texans have a big decision on whether or not they're going to extend him because he's a free agent after this season. This is a guy that if you're not sure that you're going to re-sign Jalen Petrie, he could kind of step in as that third safety in this unit and help with the secondary once again. In 2023, he was fantastic for Penn State, a very talented player on the back end of the Penn State defense. He was a captain. He was a athletic freak. Obviously, like I said, had that injury, but has had a lot of time to recover. Maybe that hurts his draft stock a little bit. I think if he was healthy, he'd be a top 2 round guy. But because of the injury, because of some other stuff, he maybe will be sliding a little bit down. I don't know if he makes it all the way to that pick in round 3. But if he's there, I wouldn't mind the Texans adding some depth in that secondary again. And this is where I know a lot of people are probably going to be like, Jeremy, you're reaching way too much. And maybe I'm reading the tea leaves too much. But the Texans brought in Jaydon Blue for a top 30 visit, and he is a speedster out of the University of Texas. Maybe they go, hey, we want another weapon in the backfield. We want somebody with some breakaway speed, and that's exactly what Jaydon Blue does. Joe Mixon is a guy who, yes, he's fast, but he's more of a power runner. He's going to run over you. He's going to be patient, look for his holes, and hit them and be able to run over defenders. Jaydon Blue is that guy when he gets the ball in his hand. If there's open field, he is gone. He was really good this past year for the University of Texas. This past year, 134 carries, 730 yards. But look at the receptions because that's where he's going to be used if the Texans draft him. 42 receptions this past year for 368 yards. 14 total touchdowns for Jaydon Blue. Now, he does have a little bit of a fumbling issue, 3 fumbles this past year, but I know it's a little bit of a reach. But if you want a premier athlete in this year's class and you want to spend some capital, maybe, we got an extra 3rd-round pick from that Laremy Tunsil trade. You want to take another shot at the dartboard at getting a boomer bust project or prospect? I think Jaydon Blue could be a decent option for this team to take in the mid-rounds. Now, coming up, I take another wide receiver in this mock draft. I'll let you know who that is in just a moment, but I couldn't do today's show if it wasn't for our amazing sponsors over at Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app out there with over 10 million active members. Get started today with Prize Picks. I love Prize Picks. Hey, my producer Moose, he loves Prize Picks. You will too. All you got to do, pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. I know this is a, channel where we talk mostly football. Baseball season is right around the corner, and they have season-long projections on Prize Picks, and this is the one that I put in for our Houston Astros. Jaydon, your daddy, he's going more than 34.5 home runs. Who are we kidding? Christian Walker, the newest Houston Astro, I hit the more on his 30.5 home runs. Framber Valdez, he's your ace, so he's not getting more than 11.5 wins. Houston, we have a problem, and you have to add one player from another team. You could add another, somebody from another sport, wherever. It just has to be from another team. So I went ahead and I added Kyle Tucker, our sweet prince. But on the bright side, we got Cam Smith, so maybe a win-win. I don't know. You can use my picks. You can go against them. Just do it over on Prize Picks. Make sure you use that code CLNS, and you'll get $50 instantly when you play $5. That is code CLNS on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't need to win to receive the $50 bonus. That, my friends, is guaranteed. So get started today with our friends at PrizePicks. Run your game. In round 5, pick 157 for the Houston Texans, I went ahead and took Nick Nash, wide receiver from San Jose State. This is a guy that the Texans met with at the NFL Combine, and I think he kind of fits nicely off of what you did earlier in the draft with taking Jaylin Noel. He's a smaller, shiftier receiver. Nick Nash is a, bigger slot type receiver, almost 6'2", 6'3", 200 pounds. Very productive at San Jose State, and a guy who, he went to a smaller school, and actually, look at that, 2021. He's a former quarterback as well. He's a guy who, yes, you're taking a little bit of a risk on that he can, step up to the NFL competition after playing lesser competition at the college football level. But if it works out, I think this could be another huge hit in the middle rounds for Nick Caserio and DeMeco Ryans. You have to add talent to that wide receiver room. So I went ahead and double dipped at that position. I said, hey, I'm not only going to get Jaylin Noel, I'm also going to get Nick Nash in this mock draft. Now, let's go on to the next couple of picks I have. Round 5, pick 166. I'm going Cody Simon, linebacker from Ohio State. 112 tackles, 7 sacks this past year. I mean, he's somebody who can be a difference maker, and you need more help in the linebacker room for this year. Because if I'm looking at it right now, Azeez Al-Shire, he's your guy. He's your linebacker one. He is the man in the middle of the green dot. Then you have Henry Toto, who, had a pretty good year this past year, has a couple of years left on his rookie deal. Christian Harris, that's the one that you really got to look at because he is on the last year of his rookie deal. Barely played last year due to injury. So you're looking to possibly replace him or have some insurance in case Christian Harris either doesn't really show up this next year or, you have to maybe send him away somewhere else. You have another linebacker that you could add into this room. He was the best one on the board in round 5, so we went ahead and took Cody Simon. Now, I'm going to go a little bit quicker through these next couple of picks. They're round 7 guys, but I don't think he makes it to round 7. But Joshua Gray, if he's there in round 7, I am sprinting the card up there. He is somebody who, a 5-year starter at Oregon State, a guy who is very well respected, highly touted in that Oregon State program, was somebody who played left guard and left tackle. And I think this would be a slam dunk home run as a round 7 pick. You get somebody with this much experience, somebody who, is a true tweener. He's a little bit too small to play left tackle. I don't know if he's powerful enough to play on the inside, but he definitely has the skins on the wall. He's definitely had a lot of snaps at the college football level. So I think he could easily acclimate to a backup role and maybe could surprise people at camp. You never know. There's another guy on the Texans roster named Ladarius Henderson. We didn't get to see him this past year, but maybe a couple of these late round guys surprise you. There's always one of those guys, a diamond into the rough, 7th round pick. Maybe he's our Brock Purdy. No, I'm just kidding, but maybe he is. You never know. Here's our next 7th round pick, Fentrell Cypress the second. We all know Fentrell Cypress the first. 2024, 27 tackles, 0 interceptions, 5 pass breakups this past year for Florida State. Honestly, I'm going to be honest with you guys. He's the best defensive back left on the board. I haven't done a ton of research on Mr. Cypress, but has some good length, played at Florida State. Whenever I did a deep dive, which I went to his PFF page. Whenever I did a deep dive, much better in 2022, according to PFF. Maybe you add him as a back into the roster depth piece who can help you in special teams a little bit. But you didn't come here for my 7th round picks. You came here for the beginning picks. And if you missed them, if you fell asleep in the beginning of the show, don't worry. Here is my complete Texans mock draft 4.0. Had a little bit of a trade in there. This is my first mock draft after the Laremy Tunsil trade. So I want you to go down in the comment section, look at these picks, and tell me, what would you grade this draft for the Houston Texans? An A, B, C, D, or F? Obviously, took Donovan Jackson first, Jaylin Noel, Kevin Winston, Jaydon Blue, Nick Nash, Cody Simon, Joshua Gray, and Fentrell Cypress the second. If you want to get mad at me, if you want to hit me up, if you want to talk some shop, you can hit me up on my social medias at Jeremy Chuggs on X, at Jeremy Chuggs on TikTok. Hey. Or you can hit me up on IG at Texans Today CS. All those links in the comment section and description of today's video.